Hi, in this video, we're going to continue to talk about conditional statements, specifically how to use else if or elif actually. Now, come back to our traffic light example. I mean, all of us know in most places in the US and in the world that traffic lights are not just red or green, right? There's also the yellow light. And the yellow light tells us to do something that is different from green or red. So how do we represent that in Python? Well, how do we do that? How do we state its purpose in English? So in English, we would say something like this. If the light is red, stop. Else, if the light is yellow, we should slow down, and then if it's safe, then we can go. Otherwise, if it's neither red nor yellow, then we can go because we assume it must be green. So we can, again, kind of like what we did earlier, we can translate this English sentence more or less directly into Python. And we do that with another addition to our if-else statement. And that is else if, except it's not called else if, it's called elif. And elif, we must give it a condition. So we'll say elif if the traffic light is yellow. And then we should say, okay, maybe we slow down and maybe stop. Okay, so just one thing to say about elif is, again, I already said it stands for else if. And this is a prime example of Python's naming philosophy, which is Python likes names to be short and descriptive. So elif obviously is short and is descriptive enough that it's fairly obvious that it means else if. So I guess that's why the designer choose to just call it else if rather than spell out else if, like in some other languages. Okay, so what this does is that when Python encounters these few lines of code, it would check the first condition. If the first condition is true, it will execute the body of that condition, and then that's it. It's done with the whole thing. Now, if the first condition is false, then it will go on and check the next condition. And if this next condition is true, then it will execute the body of that next condition. And then once it finishes what's in that body, again, it finished the entire conditional statement, and it will go on to the lines after that. And if otherwise, I mean, we now only have the else. If neither the first condition is true nor the second condition is true, then it will execute whatever's in the else clause. Okay, and then after it executes this statement or this block of code here, it will then go on to the next line, whatever that might be. Okay, that's all that if you need some review. And that's basically the elif. keyword. Now, the elif does get a little more complicated, and that is because you can have multiple elifs. You're not limited to just one. And when you have multiple of them, then each one of them is evaluated from top to bottom. I mean, obviously including the original if condition. And only the body of the first true condition is executed. Okay, what that means is if we have this, let me change this back to false first. Okay, so this is a very canned example. You will run into a more realistic example in your assignments, I believe. So now, if I have 4 conditions here, only condition 3 is true, and then I have a series of if, elif, 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 and then end it with an else, then hopefully, I mean, you can see right away that because only condition 3 is true, then only this line in the condition 3's body is executed. So when I run this program, the only statement that is printed out, or the only message that is printed out is condition 3 is true. Right? That's what you would expect. Let me do something a little differently. If I change this to true, condition 3 and 4, so now there are 2 conditions that are true. So when you look at what I wrote here and how this if and elif work, what do you expect is going to be printed out? Okay, and let's run it and see what gets printed out. Still, only one message is printed out, even though there are 2 conditions that are true. The reason, again, is that each of this condition after the if or elif is evaluated from top to bottom in the order they appear. So condition 1 is false, nothing happens. Condition 2 is false, nothing happens. When it comes to condition 3 is true, it would execute the body or the block of code for condition 3, and then it will stop evaluating the rest of the conditions. And the execution would resume in the line after this entire conditional statements. So the moral of the lesson is only one of these body of the conditions is going to get executed. Only one, despite the fact that there might be multiple conditions that are true. And only the body of the first condition that is true that gets executed. Okay, so like I said, I think you will get some exercise with this. So, but hopefully it at least, even though this example is a little contrived, hopefully it makes sense. So now that you've learned else if or elif, here's a little exercise for you. Write a program that asks the user to type two numbers. And these two numbers, you should put them in two variables. And then you print a message stating if the first number is maybe it's greater than, maybe it's equal to, or less than the second number. So this is a sample output that for one run of your program. So the program should ask the user to type in the first number. Let's say the user type in number 5. And then your program should ask the user to type in the second number. Let's say the user type in the number 7. Then your program should print 5 is less than 7. Now, let's say the user type in the first number is 10 and the second number is still 7. Then your program should print out 10 is greater than 7. And if the user type in, two numbers that are equal, then your program should say the two numbers are equal. Make sure whenever you write a conditional statement, you should test each and every single conditions and make sure all of them work correctly. It's not enough to just test one of the conditions and say, oh, if that one works, then everything else will work. It's not necessarily true. Test all your conditions. Okay, so give this a try. All right, so I believe that's the end of this video. I'll have a lot more to say about conditionals and logical operations in the next video.